that sound like an AI thing?
I don't know if it sounds like an AI thing. It'd be like, what?
Start recording.
Oh, well, that sounded more.
That did? Yeah, okay.
Hi.
Hi.
I have one for you.
Okay.
So normally you hit me up with these TikTok.
My algorithm has been super messed up lately. Like, I don't get any real estate stuff. Like, hello.
You've been
real
slacking.
Real estate TikTok. Real TikTok, whatever
Well,
you call it.
maybe after today you'll get some more.
Do you ever do that? Like, if you want to get some kind of topic, just speak it into your phone when it's not even, like, on. Like, it just sits here and you'd be like, blue elephants. And I swear to God, you will get something about blue elephants in the next, like, couple hours.
No, but my phone did do something yesterday. And I was like, what? So I was talking to a client and I said, well, let's do a meeting and I'll set it up for Friday at 1:00. And then I was like on the phone having this conversation. And then I go, after I've hung up the phone, I go into my calendar and it pulled her name for the appointment at that designated time.
It's
and
like
I'm like,
always
what?
Listening.
I definitely need to find that setting and turn that off.
Yeah, it's always listening. And then, do you get where it's like ask app not to track or to track now? Whenever you go, yeah, that's bullshit. It tracks.
All right, so I have a story for you.
Okay.
This one came up, and it's another realtor in another area, not in our immediate area, so there is no conflict here or anything like that. But she was talking about she worked with the seller, and she was the listing agent, and they had a buyer in a contract. And her words were that the buyer was a little bit difficult, but they were working through the process. They were going through the inspection, and the buyers were asking for all these things. And in disclosure, as the listing side from the seller themselves, they had indicated new windows. And, this never came up as a question, wasn't an item on the inspection itself. And so they get past it, they get to the closing table, and the buyers changed their mind. Did not close on this house. Seller obviously doesn't want to release earnest money because there's now a conflict, and why did this not go through, whatever. And the listing agent, the seller, get into another contract with another buyer, and they sell it, and everything is fine. They think earnest money from the prior buyer is still being held, right? Because there's not an agreement for the release of that. Seller moves, goes to Florida, and several months later, whatever, receives in the mail a notification that they have been sued by the first buyer who did not close on the property for $10,000.
Was that the earnest money?
Nope. Earnest money was $5,000. So it's different from the earnest money. They weren't suing for the earnest money. Buyer's claim was that the seller misrepresented the age of the windows, and as a result cost them $10,000. That's what they were suing for, and that was the charge. So anyway,
they didn't even close on the house. How did it cost them money?
Because then when they had to go buy another property, it was more, whatever. That part they don't give us details on.
Oh.
So the important aspect here is that this buyer did not close on the home. The earnest money, separate issue, was still in dispute and wasn't going to be released, but the buyers are suing the sellers because of the words that were used as newer windows, and that is the agent saying, oh my gosh, how does this happen? How can we conduct business if this is the kind of mentality and issues that we're going to face? So let's break it down. You're the consumer, right?
Okay.
You go into a house and you see and you receive information from the sellers as far as disclosures. If they live there, they're supposed to give you the last 5 years of any known defects or repairs that could adequately affect your decision as a buyer to make that property yours, right? Mm-hmm. Are the age of the windows something that you as a consumer would check?
Yes. But, like, I don't care if they're 5 years old or 1 year old.
Okay.
Like, I would still consider both of those new. Mm-hmm. I just want to make sure that there's no leaks, that they're, like, double pane, that they're newer. They're not, like Oakwood house windows. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm talking about? how they're super old. You can hear the wind through them.
The wood frame, single pane,
Yep.
rope pulleys.
Yep.
And usually we find, or we at least know from our experience, inspectors, if they're doing an inspection, an inspector is going to open and close every window and make sure that they can lock, or if there's any issues that those are noted.
Yeah, because in one of the houses that I bought, the window was completely sealed shut.
Yep.
And we negotiated, and he put in a whole new window.
And so I've had others where sometimes if it's a double pane, you've got the gas compression on the interior, and when it starts condensating, then you know that that leaked or is not doing its job, right? So
Yeah.
those are things that can be determined, perhaps negotiated. So the process of, if we're in a litigious state and a buyer happens to be an attorney and they're just going to sue over anything, there is no protection anybody can do to say that that's not going to be a possibility. In this case, the wording was very specific that if in the listing or in disclosure, the word new or newer is used without a date, do you open yourself up to a potential lawsuit? Because if I said that it was new as of 2021, the buyer can't come back and say, well, it's only 4 years old. That's not really new. But you know that it's 4 years old. So it kind of is, you at least know what it is, right? But if I just say that they're new and then you find out that they're 10 years old, is there the potential that that buyer comes back to sue the seller?
So in your real estate expertise, is there anything defined, like you can't use the word new if it's older than...
There isn't anything defined. And I think that that's really, really the sticking point, is that if you use language that's vague, could you get yourself into trouble? Okay.
So I think, like, from the legal perspective, and I'm not an attorney, but
Right.
I think that it's better to use that vague terminology, because when you go into court, well, what do you think new is? 6 years? That's how old they were. Well, what do you think new is? 2 months?
Right. So the
Difference of opinion does not mean successful lawsuit.
correct. And so really, when I'm working with the seller, we want to be as accurate as we can on the information that we provide. If we don't have an exact date on something, then we may not use new or newer. It's because that's a matter of perspective. Something could be 2 years old and it be raggedy.
Right.
Something could be 2 months old and it be raggedy.
I mean, let's flip a script on this buyer. And do they say that their current roof is new, or do they say that it is newer to their insurance company? Because
Well-
I guarantee you get a better rate when you have a newer roof.
Right. And I think the flip the switch to the buyer would have been, if you were really, really concerned about the age of windows, then you would have addressed that in your inspection itself. If your inspector checked all the windows and everything functioned and worked and there was no issue and you didn't ask for repair, then I'm not so certain that you get to use age as a negative. So we know we go in and an HVAC system could be the original HVAC. It could be 20 years old, but it still works and it's functioning. Guess what? Hopefully, if it's going out tomorrow, you have a home warranty protection that's going to cover that. But there's no guarantee, but they can operate, you could get a dud on the new install.
Yeah.
So you could have an issue even if it's brand new.
Right.
There's no guarantees in any of this. The caveat for buyer beware is that if it's important to you at the time when you're entering into the contract, use the benefit of the inspection process to double check. Even if they tell me that it's new, if I am most concerned about I don't want to have to buy a furnace, then I'm going to make sure that that furnace is functioning, that it's been serviced every quarter. All the things that are important to me, I'm going to make sure I'm addressing during that time when I have it. And I would want to think when we have a closing day, everybody's happy, you walked away, it's all done, that it's all done.
Yeah.
If you have this hanging over you that 6 months, a year later, somebody who went through that didn't even buy the house has an opportunity to sue you.
Yeah. I mean, people can sue for anything, but
Of course.
so does that seller have any recourse with their realtor because they didn't write the description?
Well, so that is a whole nother aspect of it that we don't get the information on, you know, right? But that would be where if the seller is now going to be found, and they were ordered against, so they had to pay.
Are you serious?
Yeah, they had to pay the buyer the $10,000. I'm going to assume the next realm of that is that seller is going to that. If it was the listing agent fault in a MLS description for verbiage that was used, I would think that the seller would have an ability to at least say, you got to compensate me half of that, right?
Yeah.
But it could be that it was language that the seller wrote on their disclosure. So I'm going to fully acknowledge that I don't know the details. That wasn't shared. It could be one or the other, or even a combination. If the seller gave the disclosure and used that terminology, what they wrote out there, then it would be fully on the seller at that point, right? So those are important notices, is that as a listing agent, if the homeowner is occupied and they're filling out a disclosure, they are providing that information. I am not providing that information. I don't fill it out for them. We don't do any of that, right? And then that information is uploaded into the MLS. When I do a listing, I always ask for my sellers to review language that is used, verify that things that are marked as available included, you know, the services and things like that, the features of the home, that they're signing off on that, because I go through it, I'm making notes, I'm listening to things they may tell me. Doesn't mean everything is perfect. None of us are perfect, right?
Yeah.
Mistakes can happen. But we see this where an agent assumes that the hard surface in the kitchen is quartz and it actually is marble, and the buyer buys it, they've had to put quartz in. We've seen lawsuits like that. So we want to be very clear if we are specifically indicating something that we know that to be a fact, or as it was presented. And if it's not, then we could potentially share in the liability of those issues.
Yeah. I feel like from this whole story, I have figured out that I am like an easy consumer, like an easy buyer.
Because you're experienced in this.
Well, I mean, like, I could have bitched about so much more.
Well, let me tell you about my fun showing I did.
Okay.
So this one obviously is in our area, so I'm just going to caveat this. I'm not calling anybody out or anything like that. But I have a buyer who's come to me. They have a very strict timeline. They have, by the end of the month, they have to be into a house. And so we are diligently looking at properties, which means they send me text messages of all the houses they want to see. Now I'm going to go in and review, does it fit the criteria? Meaning, is it something that you can get a loan on, or is it a fixer-upper? If the person is, I don't want any problems, I just want to move in, I want it move-in ready, then we're not going to be looking at fixer-uppers.
Yeah.
Different market, right? So they may text me an address but not know what the inside looks like or what are the details. The other thing is do they want a garage? Does it have city services versus being on a well or septic? So those are details that I see when I go into the system, and then I respond that I have a setup for these showings, because the language of what's presented in the listing fits in that criteria, or it doesn't, and we exclude it, right?
Yeah.
If it's occupied by somebody else, it's not going to be available for us to get in there. So we go to look at this home that is advertised in the listing. Listing agent says, new electrical and plumbing completed. All the buyer needs to do is finishing touches.
Okay.
We are told that our access point is on the back door. Okay, great, no problem. We go to the back door. The stoop is this high to get into the back door. Like, it's 3.5 feet off of the ground. And I'm in my typical boots, heels, right? At least I wasn't in a dress, and it wasn't snowing or raining. And then there are cinder blocks for us to step on, which were not stable, to get into this house. Now, this is an late afternoon, we're still in winter, so you know the daylight's fading, and what's the first thing you're going to do? Since you're climbing up these stairs and there's no handrail and you're climbing into a wall, into a door, first thing you're going to reach for, light switch. There's no light switch. And I look in and I'm like, the box is open, and there's I'm tangled.
Oh no.
Tangled in this. There is no light switch. There's no cover plate. The box, junction box for the electrical is there. You can see the line is there, And then all of the recessed lighting openings are there, no lights. And that was the first room. And so I'm like, okay, well, at least we have enough daylight. Maybe we can see. And they're like, I'm not sure that this, and I'm like, it says that it's being sold as is. It's, and I'm questioning myself, like, why are we in this house when this is clearly, and we go into the living room and the drywall is missing so that you can see that the electrical line was run. Every outlet, every light switch, every electrical connection is an open box. Nothing was put in.
I wouldn't say that that's done.
So we walked out and
sue him, $10,000.
We walk out, we go on to the next property or whatever. And as I pull up to the next property, I am like, that bothers me so much because, I mean, this is time. Time is money. We are wasting time and somebody who's very time sensitive.
Yeah.
And I pulled the listing paper because I'm like, how did I miss that? And I reread that description. New electrical plumbing completed. All the buyer needs to do is final finishing touches. And I am like, oh my gosh, this feedback is not going to be nice because that is actually misleading. It's false. And in so many ways, I would not have scheduled this appointment. It would not have been a home that fit for my client, regardless of anything else. That would have excluded it if that we knew there was new electric lines are run.
Yeah.
Different than electrical completed.
Yeah.
And if that was the electrical status and you're telling me plumbing is also completed, I'm going to be very weary that you actually presented that information correctly.
Yeah.
So if you are the agent or the property owner of that property, no ill will towards you, but just get it right.
Yeah.
I mean, and this is why. Something like that it is absolutely
Were there pictures
wrong.
that you could see?
No.
Oh. Okay.
No. I mean, that's the whole thing is how do you know that as a consumer? You're trusting the language of what's putting out there. I'm the professional who's trusting the professional has done their job.
Yeah.
We are regulated by the things that we're allowed to list in our MLS description. And so by that, we're not upholding those standards that we, are supposed to uphold.
Yeah. Did your people find a house yet?
We're still looking. We're going out Friday.
Oh, okay.
So the good news is there's still hope, but Friday is here and we're going to be doing that.
Yeah. Well, good luck.
So just to, can anybody sue you? Yes. Is there reasons why people don't maybe want to do this on their own? Absolutely. Because even when you're doing it with someone, it's not doing it right. You could run into problems, but hopefully buyers, the caveat is if it's important to you, make sure you check your facts before you lock into the contract, if that's the case, or during that inspection period.
Yeah.
And I obviously don't want it to be litigious where everybody is suing everybody, but it does make you worried. If I'm the professional and I have to be worried about it, doing it on my own would make me even more worried. It's trying to sell my house on my own and realize that somebody could sue me over something I said.
Yeah.
Really concerned.
Yep. All right.
Thanks for joining us today on the Realty Podcast. If you enjoyed the knowledge and entertainment today, please subscribe and share with your friends. We will be embarking on a journey that bridges the gap between realtors and clients, uncovering the heart and tea of real estate.